All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm your host, Sue Ellen Anderson Haynes. I'm the founder and the owner of 360 Girls and Women. So, this month is Women's Health Month, and it's also Mental Health Awareness Month. And we are celebrating today by offering this free virtual event for those of you that signed up that aren't here. When you get this recording, you'll be able to see all the fun that you miss in person. But either way, you'll enjoy this session. So, our topic today is entitled Motherhood and Mental Health. Learn what mothers miss, what most mothers miss. So this topic hits home for me because I'm a mother and I'm not immune to feeling down and out, or better yet, burnt out and or overstimulated, right? So not attending to our mental health can put our health at risk, our overall health, physical health, right? Spiritual health too. Um, and it increases our risk for chronic illnesses, but it also compromises our happiness and our communication at home, at school, or at play. So tonight we have a special guest. Her name is Dr. Kahilah White, a colleague of mine from the University of Florida, and I'll tell you about her in a few moments. So, for those of you who are new in this space, I'd like to introduce you to 360 Girls and Women. We are a holistic health and wellness company for girls and women. I'll tell you a little bit about that in a few seconds. So before we get started, it's customary for me to share a disclaimer, basically to remind you of the information today is for educational purposes only. It is not medical advice. It's very general information. And you must, seek out your own registered dietitian or mental health therapist if you have specific questions. But today we'll definitely provide some general tips that will be helpful for you all. So, some housekeeping rules: make sure to turn off your cameras if you do not want to be seen because this is recorded, and also to make sure you mute your device and you can unmute as we ask questions towards the end. So, a little bit about me. I am a registered dietitian of over 17 years, and I've been in the field of dietetics for a little over 15. I've worked in different areas: women's health, wellness. I have a degree not only in nutrition or food science, I would say nutrition, but also a graduate degree in wellness. So I'm not only a registered dietitian, I'm a wellness practitioner. So we work with girls and women to make sure their wellness in all aspects is in the right place. So I have a team of consultants and advisors that I also refer to when there is a need. So 360 represents completion, and we provide personalized insight for girls and women to basically dramatically improve their well-being. So our mission is to provide evidence-based information and services to help maximize a woman's complete health of the complete life cycle. So what does that mean? So we're going to help prevent, reverse, and manage certain reproductive illnesses like, PCOS, endometriosis, any type of reproductive illnesses, but also making sure we're looking at those chronic illnesses like diabetes, heart disease, and cancer, using our wellness approach: physical, mental, and spiritual health. So that is the integrative approach. We look at the entire person. Traditional medicine typically looks at one symptom or symptoms and addresses those symptoms, but we are looking at the entire approach. We call it root analysis or root cause. And I also work closely with a naturopathic doctor during this time. So we're going to now go into the meat of our presentation, or like a little workshop, I would say. And I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Kahilah White. She's a seasoned behavioral health executive, licensed therapist, and social impact entrepreneur of over 15 years of experience leading innovative initiatives across government, healthcare, and higher education. Formerly, she's the director of restorative justice at the Ministry of Justice. She has developed national programs that promote healing, reduce recidivisms, and elevate community-based care. Sh- And she's a CEO of Platinum Life Counseling. She provides faith, integrative therapy, and consulting services for Caribbean professionals and couples, while also serving as co-founder of Legacy Life Designs, a lifestyle brand dedicated to faith, identity, and generational purpose. Known for her unique ability to merge clinical expertise with cultural and spiritual insight, Dr. White is a sought-after speaker and strategist committed to building emotionally healthy legacies in both personal and professional spaces and affordable for everyone. So I'm going to unshare my screen. I'm going to let Dr. Kahilah White um, provide her presentation, and then we'll have questions that we'll ask. So I'm going to stop share. Kahilah, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you so much for the sweet introduction. It's so good to be connected back with a Gator. It's always great to be amongst colleagues and friends that are more like family. Greetings to all of you. I know the hour is drawing nigh, so we're going to make this sweet, short, and impactful. Um, as Mrs. Anderson Haynes has alerted you, I am a mental health practitioner. Specifically, I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist with licenses in both New Jersey and Florida, and I travel all over the world. I'm married to a pastor, and so it's been a blessing to be able to do what I love every single day. Today, I want to really speak and hone in with mothers. I want to but also leaving room for those that may not be mothers. So this is going to be a really holistic 360, if you will, look at mental health in a really fresh um, and unique perspective. Let's share. So I want to just look at a couple things. First, because I am a Christian and faith-based therapist, you're going to have sprinklings of faith and inspiration and motivation throughout this presentation. So, motherhood, I believe it's a beautiful thing. It's a sacred responsibility. This is a quote from one of my favorite authors, E.G. White. And she says that mothers are the heartbeat of the home, shaping the characters of their children for eternity. But we can't have amazing children. We can't shape who they are as little beings if we ourselves are all over the place, if we ourselves are drowning in despair, if we ourselves are battling with all types of mental health disorders and other stressors in our life. So I want to ask you all this question. Are your needs being met? And we'll have plenty of time to discuss. I'm going to go through this so we have more time to discuss. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me and I'll ask to the best of my ability. The basic needs are just food, water. We need sex. Praise the Lord for that. Sleep, breathe in, just even go into the bathroom. That's a basic need. And then we think about safety, right? Security of our body, keeping our body safe, knowing that we have some place to go every day in terms of employment, or if you're working in a home, or if you are a stay-at-home mother, that's work and you need to feel safe, of resources, morality, family, health, prosperity, and then love and belonging, how sweet it is to be loved by somebody,
Mm,
right? Esteem, how you feel about yourself, your confidence, what you've achieved. And then this is the pinnacle, that self-actualization, how you feel about whether you've reached your full potential. As a 41-year-old millennial, I am fully aware of who I am, and I have little time for anybody else's opinion that does not resonate well with me or is not been ordained by the Lord above. So self-actualizations when you just feel really good about who you are. And it doesn't matter who doesn't feel good about you. You feel good about you. And those of you that are mothers, it is so important that you don't lose sight of yourselves because that's the number one thing when I'm working with mothers as a clinician. We tend to put ourselves in the back burner
Mm.
We tend to listen to the voices in our head, and it may be from whoever raised you, right? It may be a mother's voice in your head, that constant ringing, the question of, am I doing this right? Am I scarring my child for a lifetime? Am I breaking a generational pattern, or am I creating a better legacy? Or you may hear your mother's voice saying, I wouldn't have done that if I were you. And those of you with any type of Caribbean or Latino heritage and background, it seems to be that voice is louder, and it often comes with like a musical tonality. So it can be annoying, it can be anxiety provoking and producing. So, my sentiments to all of you that are still hearing that voice. Thankfully, my grandmother lives in Florida. And my mother, God rest her soul, passed in 2018. So, for those of us that are dealing with the grief and the loss of being a motherless mother, that itself is like a whole different dimension. The one positive is that I don't have to get phone calls saying, why did you put my grandchild in that outfit? I can just imagine what my mother would say. So that's like the caveat. That's the only caveat. Every day, every moment, I miss my mother, but at least I don't have to hear the nuanced behavior and the critique that I definitely would have heard on if I'm choosing to do my child's hair in the manner that she would have. So I love this Japanese philosophy of ikigai, right? It's really, what is your reason for being? I found out about this philosophy a couple years ago, and it's one of the things that the Japanese consider like their root of happiness, right? Purpose lies at the intersection of all of these four circles. What you love doing, what your talents are, what the world needs, and what you are paid for. The reason you see the smile on my face, I get paid to do what I absolutely love. I love talking to people. I love educating. I love motivating. I love giving people counseling. And I love hearing about other people's stuff. So that's all rooted into me being a practitioner and sometimes feeling guilty about getting paid to do what I absolutely am passionate about. And if you can find that, it's been often said you will never work a day in your life if you are doing something that you love, that you are passionate about. I always say I get to give service to humanity and do what I love every single day. So if you're not in that field, believe me, I've worked in healthcare and I've worked in government and worked in education and for faith-based organizations. I know a pivot. I know how to pivot. I have no problem with pivoting. Once something does not feel like it's filling me up, it's time to go. That's why LinkedIn is there. That's why Indeed is there. So I encourage you to ask yourself on a routine basis, at least twice a year. Really, for me, I do it every quarter. Am I still happy doing this? Am I still receiving joy? And the answer is consistently yes, because every time I try to run away from mental health and go boss people around the corporate sector, God brings me back. So that's the question you should ask yourself as a woman, as a mother. Is it time for me to shake things up and go use the talents and the gifts that I have? And the skill set and the qualifications and pivot and perhaps look into another industry I'm excited about. Working wives and mothers in 2025. So, women today are very much unlike women of yesteryear in our mother's generation and even our mother's generation, right? Women today are balancing, they're doing this limbotic dance. I call it the bachata, I call it the tango, the salsa, a little dirty wine if you're from the Caribbean, but it is a dance of the balance between career, family responsibilities, retaining who you are as a woman. A couple minutes ago, I was in a robe, and then I said, you know what? Let me put myself together. So it's that constant balance. It's that constant figuring out, am I doing this to the best of my ability? And most of the times, I'm not getting it right. I'm doing all types of things. And for those of you that may have struggled with infertility as I did, you had a lot more time to assess and conceptualize, who will I be as a mother? Most of my friends are sending their children off to high school or middle school, and I'm chilling at the daycare with my child. So I'm at the opposite end. I'm one of those older mothers, but I'm having such a good time because now I really don't care what anybody's opinion are. And so there's pros and cons to all of that. I love this scripture from the Bible. She sets about her work vigorously, right? Her arms are strong for her task. So all these years that I was trying to get Michelle Obama arms, all I needed to do was lift a 40-pound toddler up and down stairs because she looks at me with her puppy dog eyes and says, Mommy, I want up, up, lift up now. So being a Proverbs 31 woman and this whole concept of I'm charming and I'm a helpmate to my husband and I'm this at work and I'm able to manage finances. It means that you are all around superwoman. My nickname for myself is Wonder Woman. I am her, I am iconic, and I got this. This is something you can say to yourself on a daily basis. Are you affirming who you are? Are you affirming all the things that you do? I've gotten smarter as a mother. I've been able to manage tasks better. And now I can delineate what's important to me and what's not. My to-do lists are shorter because there are less tasks. If it's not important, if it's not sparking joy in my life, I'm saying no. I'm saying no to anything that takes me away from being at my best. Because if you are not at your best for yourself, you can't be at your best for your child.
Mhm.
If you haven't gotten this book, please go on Amazon and get this book. It's one of my favorite books this year, The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. And it's in essence, I'm going to wrap up the book and give you the Spark Notes version. It's about stop caring what people think of you. So when you stop obsessing over what people think, what they say or do, you finally have the energy to focus on your own life. So guess what? My phone calls, they're shorter. They're more purposeful because I'm running back to the things that give me joy, which is my child. So this is a great book to just put things into perspective. The other book that I want to bring to your attention, if you haven't already added it to your collection, The Four Agreements by Miguel Ruiz. This is something I read at least once a year. We cannot forgive ourselves for not being what we wish to be, or rather, what we believe we should be. We cannot forgive ourselves for not being perfect. What voice are you hearing in your head? How are you conceptualizing who you are called to be? So here are the warning signs and symptoms of now we're getting into the mental health issues, right? Troubling thoughts and feelings. If you're going through changes in behavior, loss of interest in activities, um, that maybe what is anxiety? Anxiety, it's an internal alarm or a concern that becomes apparent even when an external threat is not physically present. Anxiety is also the anticipation of a threat that never materializes. This
Mm.
is a question I often ask clients. Do you have evidence for feeling this way? What
Mhm.
evidence do you have? You need a little anxiety because if you didn't have anxiety, we wouldn't get out of bed in the morning. So anxiety is not all bad. Anxiety gets a bad rap. It's the management of that anxiety and how successful you are with doing it. Acknowledge it and then flow through it. And then we have to look at the socio-political stratosphere and the impact of everything we've experienced in the past couple years. So the impact of COVID-19 has allowed anxiety disorders being diagnosed
Mm.
to skyrocket from the global perspective of frontline healthcare workers, those of us that are talking to individuals every day about their issues. I is tired, which is why I frequently tell people go on a vacation, even if it's a staycation, even if it's a hotel across the street, go spend a night to change the scenery, to shake things up, to get a new perspective, to shift the paradigm. Sometimes you have to do things that are altogether out of sync with your normal way of behaving and acting. So, economic pressures, we have to look at what has really been impacting us.
Mm.
As I want to speak specifically to us in the United States, right? People are going through stuff all over the world, but if you're living in the United States in 2025, it's a different kettle of fish than 2005, right? So there's economic pressure that's increased. The price of eggs. I can do an omelet with one egg now. Right? So the recent study highlighted there's a 63.6% increase of reports of fair versus poor as to how people are feeling among US mothers. They looked at mothers from 2016 to 2023. And of course, I have friends that gave birth during COVID, right? Those mothers, their children, now we have studies that are going to come out in the next 15 years. Those children are socialized differently. Why? Because their first months were isolation, no matter where in the country you were. And so social dynamics, we're going to look at all of that is going to be an effect of what has happened. Then we have the healthcare access disparities, and I have friends and families talking about this.
Mm.
A, a good family member of mine, one of my favorite people, Dr. Daniel Dawes, speaks about healthcare disparities across the world. And he had a great book about it, The Political Determinants of uh, Health in
Yeah.
Access, right?
Hmm.
So 84% of birthing age women reside in areas with shortages. There are shortages of maternal mental health resources. I can't feel better if I can't get the help. There are specific counties that are at severe risk for maternal mental health disorders. And that has tripled since 2023, particular in states like Texas, Alabama, Oklahoma. Ring about any commonalities? They're all red states.
Mm.
Um, Impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, we sort of brushed on that. Then we have to think about climate change and environmental stressors. We have a home still in Florida. I'm in Jersey now. I don't have to think about hurricanes up here, at least for now. But in Florida, now we're like places that never got tornadoes. Orlando had tornadoes, and the hurricane like actually hit Orlando last time. The tenants that I had in my house, they got up and evacuated, which is unheard of. If you grew up in Florida, like Sue Ellen and I, you know
Tornadoes are unheard of. Yeah,
it's
in Florida.
unheard of. So anybody that says climate change doesn't exist, okay, go to Florida and ask them what they think now. And then health policy changes, we won't even get into that. These are all exasperating the stress and the anxiety level of individuals. Then we have mental health disorders.
Hmm.
So we have the all-time one that everybody talks about. Oh my gosh, I actually had a family member say to me while I was pregnant, while baby was in utero, yeah, I'm here watching a movie on Netflix, minding my own business, and the person says to me, a male, by the way, oh, I hope you're not watching anything that could cause postpartum depression. In typical Caribbean American fashion, I quickly switched my head around, prayed the blood of Jesus before I said, I come against it. I am trying to remain Zen. So it was so important for me to watch what I ate, to be not susceptible to certain things on TV, because I
Hmm.
often ask mothers a couple things. Have you ever asked your mother what their pregnancy was like?
Mm.
Well, my parents were fighting during that time. My parents were actually going through a divorce.
Hmm.
And you're wondering why you have trauma related to relationship issues, ask your mother, how was your pregnancy with me? Because our hopes and our dreams, we are passing down to our children. The state of your mental health at the time of pregnancy will directly, we are passing on things to our womb. So we have perinatal anxiety disorder. This doesn't get talked a lot about. There's a show called Raising Seven Daughters, Love Baby shows on TLC. There's and the father disclosed, if anybody's the show is slipping my mind. They are a family, I believe they're in Texas, and they have a really cute van and really cute house, and they have seven daughters that are the cutest thing. And the father said, I am suffering with postpartum depression. which was mind blown to me. But it's a thing for male to get it. They just do not speak a lot about it. And there's the withdrawal and the missing pregnancy and the wondering what's going to happen with the child, which is coupled with the perinatal anxiety disorders. Oh my God, will I be a good mother? Am I going to drop the baby? I was fixated for a minute. I've always lived in two-story homes, and I was just like, I don't want to go up the stairs with this child. What if she falls down the stairs? I'm not thinking I'm holding the baby. I'm thinking the baby's going to get up and start walking. All types of, I don't have evidence for this. I was able to stop myself because I know the things to say to myself. But these are very real. Postpartum psychosis, this is rare, but it is a severe condition. Um, and then we have uh, it's occurring in 1 to 2 mothers per 1,000 births, right? And then I want to think about the spiritual dimension. So, from a Christian perspective, mental health struggles, they are not indicative. A lot of people say, oh my gosh, I should be able to handle this because I'm a believer. I'm a faith-based person. I have clients that practice Hinduism, practice Judaism, practice all types of faith. And there is a belief that my faith will carry me through the struggles of mental health. Your faith is great. I always say Jesus and therapy go together like peanut butter and jelly. It's great, but I would also say, please go speak to a PCP. Please think about the foods here. Um,
Hmm.
from what you're eating. I
Hmm.
was dealing with gestational diabetes and I never took one injection because my husband was like, no, my husband was a radio host of a healthy and happy radio show back in the day. So he was like, I will help you. I'm going to and he became my dietitian and doctors were amazed. They're like, you didn't have to do medication. My child ended up she loves vegetables. She'll choose vegetables in a bowl over chocolate because I believe of how I ate. Sparkling water, this child still doesn't know what soda is. She thinks sparkling water is soda, and I'd like to keep it that way. Processed food, she's snared at goldfish. So all of this is rooted into how we think, how our spiritual health is, what are your faith practices, being a part of community. Now, studies are showing if you're a part of a community of faith, you are going to feel better. You are going to live better. Now we're seeing if you pray or meditate or have some type of stillness practice, some type of mindful based systemic practice, you are going to feel better. So, anxiety, we've sort of gone through some anxiety, but this is just a quick overview. I want us to look at the brain. There's a wonderful book called The Body Keeps the Score, and it talks about the trauma that locks into us if we don't address the issues that we're facing. So, traumatic experiences are often stored in the body, which then also reprograms the brain. The amygdala, this is the fear response, left in a state of hyperarousal, which causes disproportionate anxiety throughout life. What this means is if you don't take care of issues that you had as a child, the trauma that you went through as a teenager, the other things that you are battling with as an adolescent and young adult, it will continue to show up in your life. It will perpetuate how you decide to rear your children. Anxiety often transfers to fear. So, wise counsel is this. I love this scripture. Rest in the Lord, wait patiently for him. Do not fret, it only causes harm. Depression, we see all types of signs for this with children and with adults. But how do you prevent anxiety and depression? From a Christian therapeutic standpoint, you trust in God, you learn to cope, you keep things in perspective, and you reach out to others for help, including getting a clinician. Stress management techniques. I love a to-do list. I have tons of post-its throughout my desk. I have a notebook system on my iPad. I love fitness and health. I have a Peloton in my office, support system. Think about your friends and family. When I think about mothers and mental health, I think about a client during COVID that had decided it was just too much. And I looked at her one day, we were doing virtual therapy, and I said, how are you doing? And she was in bed and she was like, I'm not making it. And I was like, well, what do you mean? What is going on? Who's your support system? And she starts describing how I have to go to work in another state. I have to be in, she was in New Jersey. I have to go to Connecticut for work. I have to come back to New York, but I also have to breastfeed. And I don't know how I'm going to get everything done before I have to leave and have enough bottles for the baby. And I asked her, who says you have to breastfeed? And she said, oh my God, I never thought about that. I actually feed my child formula sometimes. And so it's this thing, like at the top, when I said, everybody I know on this, if you are a mother, everybody has their own breastfeeding story, whether you did it, whether you were forced into doing it, whether people thought you should have done it for longer, whether you wanted to do it for longer and could not because of a flow issue. But there's all types of pressure, is the one common theme in that. And she said it was the first time somebody gave her permission to think about doing something other than having to miss appointments because she was trying to think about bottles that her babysitter would need, and she had no problem with formula, and the child had had formula once or twice before, and there was no adverse reaction. But there's all this pressure. So the question that I constantly ask my clients, and I'm asking you all today, where's the pressure coming from? Is it from here? Is it from your heart? Is it from the outside noise that you're letting in? Where's the pressure coming from? And how do I quiet that? By indulging in self-care. Right after I had my baby, I was back to kickboxing because it gives me joy. Beating fake people up in my mind makes me happy. Self-care is recognizing the importance of mental health and attending to one's emotional, psychological, and social well-being. Practice whatever sparks joy. And it's from one of my favorite articles ever from New York Times, Get Inside Your Head. So if I can practice joy every day, if I can be kind to myself, I'm gonna come out better. What is stress? Anything a person perceives to be a threat, but the perception can vary widely from person to person. So I want all of you to examine the stressors in your life. One, how are you feeling? Two, how are you feeling emotionally? How are you feeling physically? What are the stressors in your life? What kind of support do you get? Is it time to talk to the other caregiver and say, I need help? Whether you're divorced, single, who's a part of your tribe, your village, are you able to relax? In the middle of the day, if you came into my office between clients, you would see me coloring in an adult coloring book. I have a Bible devotional coloring book and I love it. I also scroll TikTok and I also have moments that bring me joy. I'll get up and dance to a random Bears Hammond song. So, how are you relaxing? That's the question. And as I leave you all, I just want to talk about family stresses, any upset in the regular routine, which has an adverse effect on family life. So, how do you live stress free? Learn how to say no, asking for help, delegating tasks to others, learning to negotiate and barter, and treating yourself. How to be grateful. Your ability to process a life experience through a grateful lens does not mean denying negativity. Instead, it means realizing the power you have to transform an obstacle into an opportunity. It means reframing a loss into a potential gain, recasting negativity into positive channels for gratitude. And ye shall seek me and find me when ye shall search me for me with your whole heart. Benefits of counsel, it's a non-biased support system, helping you establish a plan, identifying negative patterns, and coordinating services with other community members. If you need to reach out to me, please feel free to take down my information, visit the website, join me on TikTok or Instagram at Dr. K White. Thank you for allowing me to share.
Thank you, Kahilah. That was excellent. I want to pause and see if anyone has any questions. I think Kahilah touched on a lot of good points. And I have three points that I would come to when I think of what mothers miss the most. But I like, the self-care aspect, the making sure that we're understanding stress versus anxiety. But does anyone have any questions here that they want to throw out before I kind of wrap it up? With my piece, another 5 minutes, I would say I would wrap things up, but on my end, but I'm open to have questions for you guys, to take questions from you all. Anyone? I think in the chat there was a question. Let me go. Someone says, could you please define the previous condition? I don't know what condition.
Yeah, there was a listen, there were a
There's
lot
a
of
lot of
mental
condition. Was
health.
it
Let's
postpartum? Um, Hold on, I'm seeing what condition.
Nicole, I'm seeing you raise your hand. Do you have anything
Yeah.
specific?
Yes, I think you had a list of conditions that I think you had uh, uh, postpartum depression. You had all of those,
Yes.
but I
Can
don't
you
think
go back? Yeah.
I just wanted to, to just define them a little bit for me, please.
Okay.
Can you want to go back and share?
I'm gonna go back and pull this up. So give me 1 second. Let me share this back again. Do. Share. Let's see. Let me go down to that slide. Let's see. Nope.
I think it was
We're talking about the perinatal.
yeah. In
Yeah,
pregnant.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
The perinatal. Let me go through each
Yeah, it was
one.
in the back,
Yeah,
the beginning.
we're gonna go all the way back. There we go.
Hmm.
Okay, so postpartum depression. Postpartum depression is really after birth. And for some women, there's no time span on when this may start or when this may end because it differs widely from different women. Did I stop sharing? I'm not seeing
No,
my
no,
screen.
we're still you're sharing the
I'm
screen.
sharing. Why can't I see? Hold on. Do. Yeah. Boom, boom. Let's see.
Maybe are you in presenter view?
I
Maybe.
am in presenter view. Help me, help me, help me. Give me 1 second, Nicole. Let
Okay.
me get our life all the way together. Gallery. Okay, I lost my stuff. The other one is perinatal anxiety. That could happen before. But as you know, I would encourage you to look up all of these because we don't have the time span to really go into specific details. There's other perinatal mental health issues, but I also want to say it's really important to note I've had clients that have suffered with other mental health um, illnesses, and that presents different complexities and struggles during pregnancy.
You
So
know
it,
what? Go ahead.
no, no, go.
I was gonna say, dealing with the nutrition aspects of mental health. When we look at pregnancy and being a mother, baby blues is often given, description baby blues to many mothers and even to me, which is like a short period of sadness after delivery, but that can transition to postpartum depression,
For sure.
which is a longer length. I believe it's after 6 weeks or
After they're checking you at 6 weeks and they're answering some questions. I've had clients, if you're
mhm.
saying everything's okay, I'm not feeling down, I'm still engaging in activities, but there's a lot of questions that are not answered, and those questions oftentimes they're finding are not culturally sensitive. There are
Yeah.
ways those questions are asked that um, BIPOC women have had to hold things together
Hmm.
historically. And if you're into history about culture, I encourage you to read The Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome by a
Hmm.
really cool social worker. But if you've had to hold on to those issues and be sort of the savior for an entire family, and women are seen as important figures in your family of origin, and we suffer in silence has sort of been the unspoken mantra and rule. It's going to be hard for you to identify what that looks like in yourself because you're not going to take it seriously. So that's a whole nother presentation I could go into just on the specifics with the different mental health
Yeah.
diagnoses for maternal
Pregnancy.
health.
And because we're talking about this, I want to say one thing. It's really important that a dietitian plays a role in pregnancy and in postpartum
Yes.
because your brain changes, and you need particular foods, omega-3s, nuts and seeds, and particular vitamins to help balance your nervous system and to help to heal and repair. And when that is lacking, the psychosis can be worse, the depression can be worse, lack of nutrients like vitamin D, B vitamins can make all that more aggravated, right? Or I would say intensify. So lack of these nutrients will intensify these mental conditions. So it's really important that if you're feeling this way, evaluate it, speak with someone, and then also follow up with the experts, a mental health provider, but also a dietitian. Many people don't believe that dietitians play a role in maybe
No, we had one
postpartum
good,
pregnancy, they may
for
believe, but
sure.
postpartum all the way through, it's important to get those nutrients that you need. If no one else has a question, well, let me see for you. I think I had a couple questions. Okay, no one else. What do you think is something that most mothers struggle with? I know you touched on a
Mhm.
couple things. What's that one thing that you believe or that you've seen from research that most
Okay.
women struggle with that you think that we need to get a hold on?
Feelings of inadequacy,
Okay,
not being able
you
to
mentioned
be
that. Yes.
um, to be in competition with this image, right? A lot of us grew up and we had this expectation of what motherhood would be like. I thought it was going to be a goddess experience. So when my feet swole up, I was trying to get the perfect um, maternity shoot, and I still got a fabulous shoot. Did I know that my feet were going to swell up and mess up my Louboutins? No. But so we had this image of what it constitutes to be a mother. Like I knew I never wanted to have a vaginal delivery, and everybody was saying you're going to miss out on the experience. And I told the doctors and my my entire medical team, I am not trying to play superhero at this particular juncture in my life. Give me every medicine known to man. I want an epidural. I got two. I want a C-section. And they were still really trying to force me into the vaginal delivery. And God allowed me to have my C-section. I knew that I would be able to have a strong threshold for pain. I didn't take any Tylenol. I was up and walking the next day. But I think it's really important to advocate for yourself and also to have people around you that advocate with the type of mother that you want to be.
Yeah, my story was the opposite. I wanted to have a vaginal and I could not. And I wanted so bad I felt inadequate, and that affected
Oh,
my mood and my healing process as a mother. And I still think about that, but that's something I had to talk to someone about. But everyone has their vision of themselves. So the number one thing is, how you feel about yourself. So that's good to know. Um, I think that I would
Um, Nicole, you made a good point. Listen, I was in Florida. I dreamed when I was a little girl that I would give birth at Advent Health, and my dream came true. And I had a whole team. I had dietitian, I had a midwife. So I had a fabulous team that I'm so grateful for. I got to work with dietitians.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that when we understand that being a mother includes community, and a community
Yes.
means that, sometimes you may need to talk to a mental health therapist, sometimes it means you need to talk to a dietitian, sometimes you definitely need to get your annual visits at the doctor. They're there for a reason, whether it's a naturopath or medical, whatever you choose, but you must, get your well visits, because if you're not well, how are you going to thrive, and how are you going to take care of your next generation? So, it is important that we have community amongst ourselves, friends and family praying for you, having a prayer group. Some people from my prayer group is here on this call today. I think
Yay.
having a prayer group is also very important. You touched on prayer. It's very important to have. Research shows that those who pray more have this, inner calm, lower stress and anxiety, and lower cortisol levels. There are actual studies, and cortisol is a hormone that increases with stress. So it's important to get, that level down. Um, so I would check one more time. I'm checking to see if there's any other questions. No, I'm going to just wrap up unless Kahilah has anything else to say. I just want to mention like those 3 points about what mothers miss most. But Kahilah, any additional?
No, it was lovely to be with you all. I am hoping that as mothers, you are all kind to yourselves and realize that you are here for a reason. God purposed in your heart to be a mother, and enjoy every moment. Enjoy the crazy moments, enjoy the amazing moments. I started a journal to my daughter. It's just filled with letters. Every couple days and weeks, I'll fill it in, but they're letters about the experiences I'm going through as a mother in hopes that when she reads it, it gives her more confidence that, you know what, there's no such thing as the getting it right. You're doing the best that you can, so be kind to yourselves. That's what my takeaway would be and what I'd love to leave with all of you. Thank you for allowing me to share. Have a wonderful rest of the evening and God bless you all.
Thank you, Kahilah. If you want to stay on, it's up to you if you want to go. That's fine. We appreciate your
Gonna
time
go have a Bible.
and your contact information if you want to drop it in
Yes.
the chat for
Okay.
those who want to reach out to Dr. Kahilah White. 3 points that I just want to mention here, like 2 minutes, contemplate. So whenever you think about saying yes, a lot of mothers, especially myself, I don't know if Kahilah has that story, in her mind or from patients about, sometimes say no. I usually am saying yes to everything. Someone asks me in my school, my work, on job, wherever I am, like, okay, yeah, I could do it. Okay, yeah, I could do it. And I overwhelm myself. So you want to stop and contemplate and say, can you really handle this? Is this what God wants you to do? Is this what you can handle, right? And then the other thing is negotiation. So when you're in a situation, whether it's your spouse, whether it's a school situation, or whether it's a situation with your family member, you want to stop and think, how can we work this out and negotiate to a place where we're both happy? Or perhaps you may have to give up a little bit of something, but try to negotiate to a place where you still have some say into the situation. I feel that that's important to have a say somewhere, and it really helps your mental health. But again, I could chime into what Kahila says. The other point is delegate. So when you think about delegating, I'm thinking of, maybe even at home, it's childcare, right? Or home
Mhm.
duties. If you don't have someone or don't have enough money to take care of the home and your kids are old enough, you could have them do specific chores around the house. Delegate to them. You need to do this.
Yes.
Here's a schedule, and you will get
Hmm.
some pocket money, and we will pay you for these chores, and that will motivate them to do something. Or if it's just you and your spouse, instead of you cooking Monday through, Friday or whatever, have you share responsibility into cooking. Even if he can't cook, you could show him how to make spaghetti or something, and that is one day that he's going to make spaghetti, right? So you want to delegate so that you could reduce some of the stress or the pressure off your
Sure.
plate. And it doesn't have to be just, home duties. It could be anything. You could delegate,
Anything.
shopping for the home, cleaning. It could be, going on a trip. I'll purchase the tickets. You'll do this. You look for that instead of you doing everything and you're becoming overwhelmed. So I think that these 3 points are important to remember. Contemplate, negotiate, and delegate. And I gave very simple examples, but there's so much more I could talk about, but I want to stop. But I want to have, Dr. Kilo White chime in if she has anything to add to this.
Oh my gosh. Make life easier, work smarter, not harder. I happen to live across the street from the grocery store. I do not go into the grocery store. I Instacart all the time. How can I make my life easier? The time that I'm in the grocery store, I could be reading a chapter of my favorite book and catching up with a friend and indulging in self-care, going to get my nails done by the time I'm back. We DoorDash on certain nights. We have laundry service pickup. So I've greatly reduced household duties and chores to allow for more fun times. That's why you see me dancing in my Facebook stories because
Hmm.
life is short. And so I would rather not have, I'll sacrifice a cute little purse for a lot of my stuff being doled out and bartered out for services. So if you can't do that, as well, Yeah, make life easier. A lot of people are stressed and they feel guilty for Instacart. A lot of times, I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I get deals all the time. I still have my
You save.
loyalty card.
Yeah.
I'm saving time and energy. And time is, I'm an older mother. I want as much time with my child
Yeah.
as I possibly can get. Plus, I don't want to stress in my life. Where can I reduce stress? So being honest with yourself, that could be a
Hmm.
spa moment when I'm out here doing XYZ. I outsource a lot.
That's smart.
Anything I can outsource, I'll
Yeah.
outsource.
And this is for stay-at-home moms or for working moms. It
Oh
doesn't
yeah.
matter, right? Work is
No,
work.
I outsourced when I was home with my child for 18 months and seeing maybe one or two clients. I'm also in a field where gratefully I have the flexibility to
Yeah.
do that. My husband is home with me a lot because of his profession as a pastor. So we do have a lot more flexibility. But when I'm in a corporate stance, it makes even more sense for me to delegate and outsource as much as possible and use the village that you have. And if you don't have a village, like we don't have a village where we are,
Yeah. Yeah.
we are completely by ourselves. We have
Mhm.
well, sometimes nanny that pops in and out, but we do not have continuous help. So
Yeah.
you have to get creative in how you spend time and lock in to your spouse, because that's the executive system.
Mm.
That's a whole
We
nother
we got to get
presentation.
you back next time for
Yeah.
another, yeah, because you're
Have a
executive
wonderful,
coach. Yes.
have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
Kahilah. And everyone that's here, I just want to leave my information. If you are new, you can, there's things about programming, but I'm not going to spend time here. I just want to make sure that you get my contact information if you have a question about today's event. If you want to message me on whether it's Instagram, Facebook, or my email is right here. I believe you guys can see that. You could send me a message, but our services are on the website, and Kahil's information is in the chat if you want to reach out to her. So thank you all for joining, and for those that joined last minute, for those that signed up, and we'll get the recording. And we hope that you have a wonderful rest of your month celebrating Women's Health and Mental Health Awareness Month. All right. Have a good evening, everybody.